This episode of SpectreSoundStudios has been brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're gonna have an amazing weekend. It's time for SMG Viewers Comments. Let's get right to it.
Glenn, I like your new Recording Basics series. What do you think about a comparison series, cheap versus expensive gear? Something like the SM57 versus the T-Bone MB75, the drum set and so on, but on a regular basis, 1 or 2 times a month maybe. Oh, and by the way, is there a good but cheaper alternative to your distressor with similar features? The FMR audio stuff may be great, but to me it has a different concept. Regards from Germany, Christian.
Hey Christian, I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think I want to do more of those. The cheap versus expensive series. I could definitely do a few of those with some of the gear I've got laying around here. We can do cheap versus expensive amp. We can do cheap versus expensive mics. That sort of thing should be pretty cool. Cheap versus expensive guitar pedals. Ooh, I like where this is going. If you guys have some ideas for some cheap versus expensive gear shows, please leave a comment below. I think that'll be a really fun series to do. I'd like to do that at least once a month. About the distressor. Oh man. See, the thing about the distressor, it's one of those really rare pieces of gear that does everything really well. And it's kind of one in a million. Maybe look at some of the stuff from Stam Audio if you want a great compressor that's not going to cost too much. They've got an 1176 clone that does like the 4 different modes all in one box. Super awesome. Hope to have it on the show in the next month or two. I think we've got one at the LA studio and I'm going to be looking forward to trying that out. In the meantime, if you want really cheap and pretty good, there of course is the Slate distressor emulation. That honestly is pretty damn wicked, and I should really shoot the two out against each other to see what exactly sounds best. I think that'd be a hell of an episode as well. Anyway, phenomenal question, man. I'm definitely going to look into it and make some of your suggestions happen.
Hi Glenn, I have a question. What's your opinion in using games and stuff to help improve guitar playing? I personally have been using the game Rocksmith to learn new songs and improve my playing, but do you think using games like this could maybe affect someone's ability to play without a game prompting you to play the right chords and notes? Thanks for the great videos, and fuck you Glenn, and hello from Peterborough, Ontario, one crack town to another, Windsor.
I think games like Rocksmith and, Rock Band, that sort of thing, Guitar Hero there like 10 years ago and whatnot, I think they're great. I think they help build hand-eye coordination. Rocksmith in particular, I think is a phenomenal program. There's a YouTube show where these 2 Asian girls are like, 13, 14 years old. I think it's Audrey Rocks or something to that effect. And they're just killing it. They're playing shit like Painkiller and that kind of stuff. And this girl can really play well. The thing is, once you learn the songs, you no longer need the visual cues from the screen. It just becomes, mental rote. And, you process the music differently. You don't always need that there. So if it's going to help you get better at your instrument, believe me, I'm all for it. Back in the 80s, they came out with something called the Fretlight guitar, and I think that still exists. And I know a few guys around the guitar stores were like, oh, ha, 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 that's hilarious. And I think, what are you guys, stupid? I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think that's going to help people learn the instrument, and then when they move over to a different guitar, it's going to be there as well. So yes, if it's making you a better guitar player, then you're a better guitar player.
Sorry, but a noob question. What exactly is an impulse response in layman's term? Oh, and fuck you, Glenn.
I get this question quite a bit, and I'll try and make it brief because I have answered this a few times before. An impulse response is basically a digital snapshot of a guitar cabinet and the microphone and preamp in front of it. And that's what makes it so cool, because you can get impulse responses from bigger studios using the signal chains that were used on bigger records. I've really been getting into them as of late. I think they're a great idea, especially if you're not that great at miking up guitar cabs. They're a wonderful way to beef up your guitar sound with minimal effort on your part. And they can also be a great teaching tool by showing you exactly what sound you should be shooting for when you go to mic up your own cab. Definitely check them out. Forget everything you think you know about mobile games, because one of the most ambitious RPG projects of 2019 has just been released, and it's gonna change everything. Introducing Raid Shadow Legends. Playing Raid is the most immersive experience you'll find on a smartphone, and it can only really be compared with the biggest PC and console titles. And the best part, it's totally free. Raid has all the features you'd expect from a brand new RPG title, like amazing storyline, awesome 3D graphics, giant boss fights, PvP battles, and hundreds of champions to collect and customize. But I never expected to get this level of performance out of a mobile game. Look at how crazy the level of detail is on these champions. Raid is getting big real fast, so get in early. Starting now will give you a huge head start. There's also an upcoming special launch tournament with crazy in-game prizes and real-life physical prize packs. Please don't forget to join my clan before that. Just search for Clan Spectre Sound and hit me up. So go to the description of this video now and download Raid only through my links to get 50,000 silver immediately and a free epic champion as part of the new player program, courtesy of the dev team. See you in there.
I'd like to ask about when you'll release the politically correct wah pedal, but then I remembered there's already a whole lineup of them by Dunlop called Crybaby.
Bravo, sir, bravo.
Hey Glenn, you hoser, eh? Cheers from the Kootenays, BC. I have $100 grand-ish as a budget to turn one of my rental houses into a recording studio. What would you recommend as essential gear? Crazy E.
Well, that's a pretty serious budget. Just keep this in mind. You're going to be throwing $100 grand into a pit that isn't going to make you money for a long time. So as long as you know that, my first suggestion would be take some of that money and hire an acoustician. Seriously, if you got that kind of budget, the most important gear you're going to have are your rooms. Hire an acoustician. It doesn't matter if he's online or he's local or whatnot. You can take pictures, you can take video and get him floor plans, and he can design you something. And take $20,000 or $30,000 of that and put that into building the rooms correctly, because that is going to give you the best sound you can possibly get in your space. Then worry about the other stuff. If you want high-end gear, some good suggestions I would make would be check out the monitors from KS Digital. They're absolutely incredible. You can check out some of the offerings from Stam Audio when it comes to compressors. I've got the SA2A, it's great. And like I said, their 1176 clone is pretty damn wicked as well. Take a look at some of the Roswell mics. They're awesome. And yeah, preamps, the stuff from Stam is phenomenal as well. Maybe you want to check out their 1073 clones. You certainly don't have to spend a shit ton of money on getting the brand names anymore these days. At least that's my opinion. I don't know. You guys tell me, what do you think?
Hey Glenn, firstly, fuck you. Secondly, how do you feel about slight clipping during the recording metal guitars? A few big artists have said they allow just a little bit, but I don't understand why. Good or bad? Much love from the Mitten State, aka the first line of defense against the Canadians.
I'm guessing that's Minnesota? Yeah, you really need a line of defense against the Canadians. Not normally, unless you're playing us hockey, then look the fuck out. I kind of was under the same philosophy for a very long time, record as hot as possible, let clips, once or twice or three times during a session. It's no real big deal. And after spending some time hanging out with some engineers down in LA, a lot of the guys are like, hey, you know what? Leave yourself a little more headroom. With 24 bits, you've got the space, and your mixes are just going to sound better because you're not going to be pushing the living crap out of your mix bus in the process. So while those guys might be right, it's still smarter to turn everything down once you've recorded them. Or, leave yourself just a little more headroom at the tracking stage. That would be my suggestion. Like I said, in a 24-bit environment, there's no reason to keep everything just below clipping. It just kind of doesn't make any sense anymore. So turn your gain down a little bit and see if that works out for you.
Fearless Gear Reviews, Time Machine. Start with the crappy Digitech RP, original pod, and review all that high-selling yet crappy gear when there was no YouTube. Do a review of it as it was released today. Well, people?
Jimmy, I think that's a fabulous idea. I wanted to ask you guys, what were the really big guitar things back in the 90s and early 2000s, before YouTube came along? What were the really popular things besides, the pods and that kind of thing? What were the other big sellers? Yeah, the Digitech unit was obviously terrible, but what else was really big but really not that great? I definitely want to go dig up a few pieces like that and do some shows on that. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But the thing is, I want to know from you guys, what should I be looking for?
It definitely would be interesting to see other home recording setups. My makeshift recording setup is in a big barn. Can't say I don't have a big enough drum room.
And I'm totally jealous. I'm working in a converted 2-car garage and we've got no space in here at all. The Hollywood studio, on the other hand, is a nice size. It's considerably bigger. It's probably twice the size of this place. It's not huge by any stretch of the imagination, but boy, do those rooms ever sound incredible. Here, it's a little bit cramped. So yeah, if you got a barn, that's awesome. Dude, send in some pictures. I really want to see where you're working. Now, a bunch of you guys mentioned last week, well, that's what Fluff does. So I hit him up. I messaged him today and I asked him, I'm like, dude, I'm going to do something like Raid or Roast My Rig, but for studio setups. And he thought that was a really cool idea and really appreciated the fact that I asked him first. And I did ask him, would you mind if I did that, and could we get maybe your control room on the show? And he was like, yeah, he wants to do a studio walkthrough he wants to do a walkthrough video of his place first before he does that. So it'll be a few weeks, but yes, Fluff Studio will be on that show. Keep your eyes peeled. I'll probably have that out in a couple weeks.
Hey Glenn, what are your thoughts on financing gear, like with Sweetwater's financing or a credit card? Personally, I think you should save up the cash and get your gear that way, so you'll be really sure that's what you want and appreciate it that much more. What are your thoughts? And fuck you, Glenn from Miami.
Well, hey, Sparkplug, I think you're right on the money. Here's the thing, and I'm going to do a much larger episode on this, and we're going to take a look at some numbers and whatnot. Just remember, when you finance something, you're paying somebody for the privilege of owing them money. So if you absolutely must have a piece of gear, save your money, pay cash, and that way you're not paying extra for the privilege of having it sooner. I mean, it really depends on your situation, and online ordering, it's super simple. I love shopping on Amazon. I do it all the time. But the trick is make sure if you're paying with a credit card, make sure you pay it off by the end of the month so you don't wind up, charging yourself extra money. Never buy anything unless you've actually got the money. That's been my modus operandi since I was 17 years old, and it's worked out great. Just wait a while. You will get the awesome gear. It just takes time.
My stepdad ran a small demo studio in the 80s and early 90s, analog reel-to-reel. Graduated from Trebas, so he knew what he was doing. When I was 11, this metal band records. He gave me them a flat rate, so it took forever. Solos were punched in like one bar at a time. Drummer refused to believe he was slowing down near the end of one song. He kept saying the equipment was slowing down on the recording, and argued constantly with each other over stuff that wasn't related to music. Said really disturbing shit to me when they were hanging out between sessions. Then it was done, and they wanted their demo free because it wasn't good enough to pay for, but needed something to sell at shows. I came home from school one day and the drummer came scampering out of the basement window. He broke into the house and tried to break the padlock off the studio door.
Well, it's a damn good thing he didn't have YouTube back then, because if you watch the Lock-Picking Lawyers show, padlocks are really easy to get past. Anyway, I'm really curious as to the rest of the story here. Did your dad call the police? Did he have the guy arrested for break and enter? Inquiring minds want to know. I want to know. That sounds so fascinating. I'm sorry you had such a horrible time. I'm sorry your stepdad had such a horrible time recording those idiots. For those who don't know, the Trebas Institute is based in Toronto. It's a recording school. So good on your stepdad. I hope that wasn't the end of his recording career. And I hope he learned his lesson to never, ever charge flat rates, because you just invite absolute nonsense like that into your life. And it's no fun.
I had that exact Digitech unit. The rocker pedal stopped working almost immediately, and since many other presets used it as a volume pedal, it rendered many of them completely silent.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've been hearing, is that the build quality on this thing just really wasn't that good, and it wasn't very robust. And yeah, there's a lot of plastic here. It's kind of scary. I hear the switches here aren't that great. And yeah, it really wasn't all that hyper reliable. This one still works, surprisingly enough. And yes, you can bet there's going to be a Fearless Gear review on it coming up very, very shortly. Sorry, yours didn't work out so well. My big question is, if it broke almost immediately, why didn't you take it back to the store?
What if you have a legit good tone and the producer still insists on doing it his way? For $800 a fucking song, I should be able to have my fucking sound on the record that I am fucking paying for.
And you know what? I totally agree with you. If you're coming in with decent gear and you've got a good sound, it should not be a problem. See, if clients bring in great amps, I'm certainly not going to argue the point. If clients bring in great cabs, I'm not going to argue the point. And again, if it's something decent, but I think we can do better, I'll usually do an A/B test and let the client decide for themselves. I remember recording a punk band back in the early 2000s. I had my rectifier with them. Guitar player wanted to use his Marshall JCM 900. Okay, bring it in. Awesome. No problem. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't have a problem with a client bringing in awesome gear. When it came to drummers, I'd get the occasional, well, I got to record on my kit. What do you got? Oh, I've got, some CBs or some Westburys or some really shitty fucking drums. And I'm like, what, DW's not good enough for you? But I remember doing the Black Creek album, and the guy came in with a set of hand-built drums by this local drum manufacturer named Jasper Baresi, and they were magnificent. I'm like, hell yeah, bring them in. I'd worked with this other band called Central Slang. Drummer was a total drum nerd, had this hand-built kit brought in, and by a local dude named Glenn Berger. And again, it was like, hell yes, bring it in. Let's mic it up. Let's see what we can do with this thing. And, we got amazing results. A great engineer should never have a problem working with great equipment. It's usually the bands that come in that don't have great equipment but are deluded into thinking what they have is great. That's the problem there. You want to bring in a Marshall, you want to bring in a Mesa amp I don't have, fantastic. You want to bring in a Line 6 Spider and insist on recording that? Yes, I'm going to argue.
Hey Glenn, I heard of this company called Vovox that claims their cables sound better and more accurate than normal cables. What do you think of them? Did you have a chance to play one before? Maybe this could be an idea for an episode of Fearless Gear Reviews in the future. Cheers from Switzerland.
I haven't heard of that company, but I've certainly heard a lot of companies that, claim their cables are better than everyone else's. And I don't know how much truth there is to that. I mean, I've got a ton of hoses stuff in here and I think it sounds fantastic. Do cables really make that big of a difference? I'm not a scientist, and in blind listening, that's the thing. I'd have to do a blind test and really see what's going on. I remember, I got to hang out with Warren Hewitt at Blackbird last summer when he was doing his master class. And, I got the Grand Tour of Blackbird, and it was really damn impressive. And the thing is, everything at Blackbird was wired up with solid core wire because their head audio tech in there, thought it would make a difference. Did it? I don't know. But then again, that's probably one of the best studios on the planet. So, hey, who's to say? But it's a very expensive way of doing cabling. Let's just put it that way.
Hey Glenn, did you have a distressor in LA? Didn't see it on screen and audio was different, better/worse, whatever. Keep up the good work, and fuck you Glenn, seems the only way to get on screen. Rock on, brother.
Hey Don, thanks for noticing, and to answer your question, no, I didn't have a distressor. I only had to make do with Neve 1073 into an 1176 into an LA2A, and these were, the real name brand pieces of gear. So, yeah. I know, tough times, but, someone's got to do it. Was it good as or better or worse? I don't know. I was pretty impressed with the sound we got regardless, and that's just phenomenally awesome room, and I can't wait to get back in there. It's probably going to be a month or two before I'm down in LA again, but should be a lot of fun. We got some cool stuff coming up.
The funny thing about the Sona video you did was you even said things it was not exactly great at.
Well, even though it was a sponsored video, I owe you guys to be honest. I mean, gear's going to have strengths and weaknesses, and if you're going to make a purchase, you should know those strengths and weaknesses. I mean, you guys come to me for the truth, so I have to give it to you. Last thing I want is for somebody to go out and buy something and said, you said it did this and it doesn't do that. You're only as good as the last video you put out, so you gotta give it to people truthfully. And if I don't, my show is freaking worthless. But thanks for writing on that. I really do appreciate that. And yeah, I'm going to continue to do that, is give it to you guys straight on all the gear that I review, because that's what you deserve. All right, everybody, that's it for this episode. Don't forget to check out Raid, Shadow Legends, and have an amazing weekend. Take it easy. Hey guys, if you liked the video, be sure to subscribe as I post every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. If you want to learn more about recording, check out one of my tutorials or one of my gear reviews if you want the actual honest truth about a piece of equipment. Till next time, stay metal, my friends.